Our car of the year carries nearly as much gear as a Ford Explorer, yet it is more high-tech and efficient than the latest Prius plug-in. So just what is Motor Trend's 2013 car of the year? The electrifying Tesla Model S.
So we just finished up one of the most, if not the most important event that we do each year, and that is Car of the Year. And today we're going to address some of the comments, questions, and controversy surrounding our decision. So one of the things that people took issue with was the fact that the car has no history. It's not tried and true. We don't know the resale value. We don't know how reliable they will be. What's our response to that?
Well, I think we were fairly clear with that to start with. You know, we can only know what we know, and as the car we judged during Car of the Year met all the criteria. No, we don't know the long-term durability and reliability, and to be honest, it's fair to say that with every car that wins Car of the Year, because Car of the Year, it's not a comparison test, it's new or significantly improved vehicles. And when someone launches a brand new vehicle, like say the F30 BMW, we have no idea what its history might be. There might be some components in there that work well, but you know, really, we don't know what that car's going to be like 5 years from now. No one can.
We're not voting on best business case of the year or anything like that. It's the actual physical product, the car, and that's what mattered.
Another thing people took issue with was the price tag. They said this is a pipe dream, this is unaffordable, this is not an accessible vehicle for most Americans.
Well, we get that every year, no matter what we choose. You know, we picked Passat, and then we got the cries that, oh my God, it's so boring. Like, who wants that? This is totally unsexy. Well, now we pick something that's, you know, good-looking car, competes against vehicles like, you know, the 5 Series, the, you know, E-Class, the Panamera, let's say, and now we're getting dinged that it's too expensive. Well, you know, we're going to get that no matter what we choose every year. That's what I tell people. There is a value statement with the Tesla when you think about the segment that it competes in against, you know, A6 and Panamera and 5 Series. The performance is on par when you go north of $100,000 for an M5 or a, you know, S6. The argument is invalid.
It's actually a bargain. Think what batteries cost and the rest of the architecture of that car. It's a huge value argument for that car.
Right. Plus efficiency. I mean, just the cost to run it. And I know that if you're spending $90,000 on a car, you probably don't care that much. But I mean, you know, 100 miles per gallon equivalent is very efficient. So it's just your costs are way down.
What about the claim that there's not even an infrastructure to support this vehicle currently in the States?
My big thing with that is that, you know, we know that the car has a well over a 200-mile range. And if people are honest, now that's hard, but if people are actually honest, how many times a year do you drive more than 200 miles if you're not, you know, doing what we do for a living? If you don't work at Motor Trend, you know, it's kind of a freakish thing. Now look, if you do that, don't buy the Model S. The battery's so big, you don't need the charging infrastructure. And Franz von Holthausen was telling us that, you know, they've been monitoring the way customers are using the cars. And so, you know, for the first week, every second, they plug the thing in, plug it in, always plug it in. And then they realize you don't need to plug it in all the time. And then as like the next week, they plug it in less. And by the third week, they barely plug it in because you can go 250 miles on one charge.
That's more than you could go on a CTS-V.
That's way more.
A Lance Revolution, or even the Focus ST.
Yeah, it's
on par with a greater range than all
yeah,
those.
And the whole infrastructure argument, I mean, if we all thought like that, we'd still be riding horses, because in 1902, there was no gasoline infrastructure either. So, you know, it's a little bit build it and they will come. Eventually, if enough people are buying electric vehicles, and electric vehicle infrastructure will come in place because there'll be a commercial reason to have one.
Did everyone agree with the chosen car of the year decision?
Yeah, it was
a unanimous choice.
Unanimous vote, yeah.
I think it becomes clearer too the more we've had a chance to think about it and talk with our colleagues in the industry. I mean, not only our most important award, but it's received several other industry accolades. It's funny, I think, is in the industry, the car guys, the car journalists are basically now a cheerleading section. If you've driven the car, if you spend any time with it, you're automatically converted. It's that significant. So I think a lot of the naysayers are the ones who haven't spent any time with it or haven't driven it and just like to throw rocks from the sidelines.
I've yet to talk to anyone who's driven the car and has a bad thing to say about it. You know?
Well, I have a bad thing to say or two about it, but
The door handles aren't great.
no. I don't like to walk up and present you. I don't like the center console either, that big bin at the bottom, and you know.
I love that.
I mean, that's some
Screen that's
nitpicking. That's some
larger than
nitpicking.
See, that's what it comes down to.
half
Is
of my
nitpicking.
body.
It is.
That's what it comes down to.
No, the car. There are things to improve. Look,
Sure, sure.
there is no such thing as a perfect car, and you can always find stuff that should be. But out of the box, a first up effort from a company that's never designed a car before. I mean, it's truly astonishing.
And of course, the perennial question that we get: why not this car? Why not that car?
Well, Car of the Year is for any new or significantly improved vehicle launched during the year. So it's not a comparison test. So there are people saying, well, why didn't you put this car in the comparison test? Not a comparison test. And, a car that was launched 2 years ago, not eligible.
Because it was in Car of the Year 2 years ago.
Exactly.
And then we also get, why wasn't the Viper there? Well, because it wasn't there. It wasn't available. We only can test what they give us. And if the car doesn't exist yet, we can't test it.
Okay. All right, now let's move from Car of the Year to one of the most controversial comparisons we have ever done.
You're looking at me?
Yes, I'm looking at you. BMW, ATS, Mercedes-Benz.
Okay, a lot of history here. So basically, we did a three-way on head-to-head. We did the V6 automatic versions of the BMW 335i Sport, the Mercedes C350 Sport, and the Cadillac ATS 3.6. There was no ATS at this point. We had never seen the car before, and I know Angus, you can speak to this some more, but this Cadillac was developed in Germany, pretty much exclusively, at least chassis-wise, in Germany, on the Nürburgring, on German roads, and they stole the formula from BMW essentially.
The 3 Series was the benchmark car.
Yeah.
If you look at an ATS, it's within millimeters of a 3 Series in every single dimension.
yeah.
I mean, finally, Cadillac has woken up. Remember, the CTS was kind of like a halfway between a 3 and a 5. Well, suddenly they realized they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
There's the formula, BMW's done it, and just go and copy it and make it better. And I think the controversy this time was, in terms of the 6-cylinder versions, the ATS is better car than the 3 Series.
The chassis is incredibly stiff. The suspension's better. It's got just as much power in the real world. And like we found in our figure 8 test, in a straight line, okay, the 335i with that twin turbo is super fast. It's over half a second faster than both cars. Figure 8, it's a tenth of a second. So all that straight line advantage is mitigated once you start turning the wheel.
Well, I don't know why people are so shocked, though. I mean, we know how good the V stuff is.
Sure.
So now this looks like, hey, Cadillac has finally focused in on this particular segment and really thrown all the resources at pursuing 3 Series BMW. And that being said, ATS is not perfect. I mean, I think that out of Car of the Year, we've had a lot of discussion about vertical movement in the chassis, particularly on the winding road, and how Q exactly.
Yeah.
And I particularly don't like the rear seat packaging. But when you talk about enthusiasts driving and
Which is why BMW for 30 years has dominated comparison tests. They drive better.
Driving those cars back to back, I never thought ever I would see the day where I could say that a Cadillac had better steering than a BMW. And that is absolutely the case with any ATS versus any 3 Series.
this totally flies in the face of the argument that Motor Trend's bought off. I mean, what, did BMW's check not clear? Or
Cadillac's is bigger.
Cadillac's
is bigger, yeah, that's what it
we're never going to win in
No,
these
I
kinds
know,
of conversations.
I know.
It's hilarious.
And that was most of the feedback was, I can't believe you're saying a BMW is in last place. I just can't believe this.
50 years ago, BMW was building
I said it.
under license, bubble cars under license from an Italian car company. It was broke. It took it years to discover who it was, which was the 2002, to find the company. They said, that's us, that's who we're going to be, and everything they've done has been a riff on that. Now, I think they're trying to figure out, well, okay, we've played that for as much as we can play, we need to expand who we are.
Right.
So I think what we're seeing is BMW is going a little bit softer. We're seeing it in the steering. I mean, the 5 Series isn't. It looks better than the last one, but it's not as much fun to drive.
No.
It's not as much of a driver's car. They went backwards. They took the aluminum front end off it, and it's all steel now.
Right,
so
it's heavier.
BMW's trying to go more mainstream, and I'm not sure that's right for BMW.
And you know this, to turn a car company around, because Cadillac was awful for a very, very long time. But it takes like 2 generations. It takes a decade to actually build good products. Then it takes another decade to convince people that you've built good products.
And Cadillac's not out of the woods. Here's my fear with General Motors is that they're going to think, hey, they're going to be doing high fives around the ATS, job done, and not follow through.
Right.
For that car to be a global competitor to the 3 Series, we need the ATS wagon, which I hear is being cancelled. We need the ATS convertible. We need the ATS coupe.
So let's end by talking about which vehicle we found most inspiring at the LA Auto Show.
Another one, one of the ones I most want to drive is the new Cayman.
Cayman?
Yes.
Yeah,
The Boxster was such a step up from the previous car and such a sublime chassis. I prefer coupes to convertibles.
I would say that the car I'm kind of most interested in, just because it seems like one of the smartest cars there, was the new RAV4. I mean, talk about going for like the throat of that segment.
Certainly.
Got rid of the V6, so that means across the range, fuel economy is over 30 miles a gallon for a hot segment. Yes, of course.
Well, and I would counter your argument by saying that I think Subaru Forester is a nice foil to that, because that was a previous SUV of the year winner for us. We tend to like what Subaru does, maybe more on the SUV side than the sedan side. But I thought there were a lot of clever tricks that car has against the RAV4. But yeah.
Well, the problem is that if the Forester is the greatest car of all time, they'll sell 50,000. And the RAV4, if it catches on fire when you open the door, they'll sell 800,000. So I'm just saying, just in terms of a segment.
So they're adding some excitement to the RAV4 then.
No, there's no excitement. There's no excitement. I'm just saying, from an industry point of view,
I
was intrigued by that car.
I thought the new Kia, the little sedan.
Oh, the Forte looked good.
Kia is really nailing. Peter Schreier's work at Kia is outstanding. One of the problems a lot of Asian brands have is with design. They're all over the map. The cars tend to be fussy. You look at Lexus. You look at Subaru,
Honda.
Scion, BRZ.
Subaru claims they don't even have designers, and they send that cost back to the customer.
But Kia is absolutely the exception. That car is a fabulous looking little small car. Just really classy, great proportions, stance, the surfacing on it. That was a real standout.
Here's hoping it drives nicely.
Well, if that thing drove, if that thing had the chassis, say, that Ford puts under a Focus, it'd be terrific. It'd be hands down the best car in the segment.
Oh yeah.
I think the thing that really struck me, because we're in the know and looking at what's coming, is that all the sexy stuff is actually going to be at Detroit this year. It's going to be insane.
Somebody asked me, what are you most looking forward to? And just off the top of my head, I was like, well, the Corvette, because that's the next 7 years of our magazine's cover. That's what we really care about, and that's not till Detroit.
All right, well, on to Detroit.
Go team.
All right.
Detroit.
We need to start doing this later so that we don't have coffee in our cups.
I was
early
disappointed
today.
the lack of beer. I know it's 11, but
It's after 12, we can't be judged.
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Right? Yeah.